The church bell rang once, twice, and then fell silent. In that silence, everything inside Clara Levington shattered. The guests had already turned in their pews, craning to see where the groom had gone. One by one, heads dipped in awkward sympathy, some murmuring that he must have had a reason, others whispering what Clara already feared. He wasn't coming back. She stood alone beneath the archway of hand-woven prairie flowers, the lace of her mother's gown brushing the floorboards, a bouquet trembling in her clenched hands. No footsteps, no apologies, just absence so loud it filled every breath of that wide wooden church. Outside, the sun was too bright, mockingly cheerful. As she stumbled down the steps with the whole town watching, Clara did not cry. She refused to. Her father moved to catch her arm, but she waved him off. And when her bridesmaids offered to walk her home, she shook her head and walked the dusty road back alone, her veil catching in the wind like it wanted to escape with her. Rumors chased her faster than any stagecoach, that she'd driven him away with her stubbornness, that she was cursed, that no man wanted a woman so independent, so unwilling to yield. And maybe they were right. Clara had never been soft-spoken. She'd never needed saving, until now. She stayed holed up for days at her family's ranch on the edge of town, helping her younger brother with chores just to stay moving, her hands blistering against the rope as she stacked hay and mucked stalls in a dress not meant for work. Every morning, the wedding cake sat untouched on the sideboard. Every evening, the scent of roses faded from her room. But grief wasn't the thing gnawing at her insides. It was humiliation and rage. Then on the fifth morning, while fixing the broken hinge on the corral gate, she saw him. A man on horseback, riding slow, like he didn't care who saw him or what they thought. Dust clung to his boots and hat, like they'd been riding for miles together. She watched him from the corner of her eye as he dismounted near the water trough, his movements careful, respectful. He didn't look like someone sent by her father. He looked like trouble, or maybe the cure for it. "You're Clara," he said simply. "Not Miss Levington, not ma'am, just Clara," like he already knew her, like there were no introductions needed. His voice was warm, with a kind of lazy drawl that made it hard to tell if he was flirting or just naturally slow-talking. "And you are?" she asked, standing tall despite the sweat on her brow and the ache in her palms. "Name's Elijah Boone," he said, tipping his hat. "I came to fix the fence. Heard you might be needing a hand." She narrowed her eyes. "Did my father send you?" "No, ma'am," he said. "I heard about the wedding. Figured someone ought to come help, and I had 2 hands going spare." Clara didn't trust kindness without cost, especially not from a stranger, especially not now. But Elijah didn't press. He simply got to work, pulling wire, hammering posts, working alongside her with quiet competence, and the occasional story that made her chuckle despite herself. By sunset, a stretch of the fence stood stronger than it had in years, and Clara realized she'd spoken more words to this cowboy than she had to her family all week. That night, she watched him from the porch as he tied his bedroll beneath the cottonwood near the barn. He hadn't asked to come inside. He hadn't hinted at payment, just offered help like it was the most natural thing in the world. But what unsettled her most wasn't his politeness or his smile. It was the way he looked at her, like he knew exactly how it felt to be abandoned, like her pain wasn't strange to him at all. And deep in her gut, Clara wondered, Why would a stranger ride into town just to help a jilted bride? What was he running from? Because kindness that pure didn't just happen. It always came with a story. By the end of the week, Elijah had become a fixture at the Levington Ranch. Every morning, he'd be up before the rooster, fixing hinges, hauling water, repairing the back roof of the barn without needing to be asked. He didn't talk much about where he'd come from, just said he'd drifted down from Montana, chasing warmer weather. But Clara noticed things. The way his eyes scanned the horizon more often than most. The way he sat with his back to a wall, always facing the door. A man like that was either hunted or haunted. Still, his presence settled something in her, like a splint for a fractured spirit. She found herself talking again. Really talking. About the ranch, about her mother's passing. About how she'd never wanted to marry just to be respectable, only to fall for a man who vanished the second life got hard. Elijah never judged, never interrupted. He just listened, like her words mattered, like she did. One evening, after a long day moving cattle, they shared dinner on the porch, just beans and cornbread, but it felt like a feast. The sun dipped low, casting everything in gold, and Clara noticed a scar running down Elijah's forearm, thin and pale like an old memory. "Gunfight?" she asked, nodding toward it. He looked down and flexed his fingers. "Something like that." She didn't push, but the silence that followed wasn't comfortable anymore. It was heavy. Elijah stood and took a long breath. "Clara, I need to tell you something." She set her plate down slowly. "Go on." "I didn't just ride into town by chance," he said. "Your pa didn't send me. But someone did." Her jaw tightened. "Who?" Elijah looked away. "Your groom's brother." She blinked. "What?" "He paid me to come check on you. Said you'd been left in a bad way, and that I was the only man he trusted not to make things worse." Clara's chair scraped hard against the porch as she stood. "So this was pity? You were sent to babysit the poor abandoned bride?" "No," Elijah said, stepping forward. "That's not... Clara, I wasn't supposed to stay. I was just meant to make sure you were all right. But I saw the way you handled this place, the way you didn't crumble. I stayed because I wanted to, because I respect you." She backed away, shaking her head. "You should have told me." "I know," he said. "I was going to. But then I didn't want you to think the only reason I was here was because someone thought you were broken." Tears stung her eyes. Not because he lied, but because it made her feel foolish. Like she'd let herself be open again, and now she was slipping back into that same humiliation. "Elijah," she whispered, voice cracking, "I can't afford to trust someone who pities me. I won't survive it twice." "I don't pity you," he said, almost desperate now. "Clara, But the words stopped short. He turned away, fists clenched at his sides, jaw tight. "I know what it's like to be left standing alone when the world's watching. I know what it's like to want to disappear." And then he told her the truth. How 3 years ago he'd been engaged to marry a woman in Carson City. How he'd worked 2 jobs to buy her a little home with a whitewashed fence. How she ran off with another man 2 days before the wedding, taking everything, including his horse. I left Nevada with just the clothes on my back and a bitter taste I couldn't spit out. Clara sat down again slowly. "All this time," he said, "I figured I was done with people. Then I met you." The sky darkened as they sat there in silence. No one moved. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled. A reminder that life out here didn't wait for emotional clarity. Elijah, she said, finally, her voice steadier now. If you came to help because you understood, not because you pitied, then maybe that ain't something to be ashamed of. He looked up. But next time, you don't keep secrets from me. If we're going to ride this trail, we ride it honest. He nodded once slowly. Yes, ma'am. And just as the stars began to wink into view above them, Clara reached across the space between them and took his hand. The weeks that followed settled into something neither of them had expected. Peace, not romance, not yet, but peace. The kind that came from knowing the person beside you had seen your worst and hadn't walked away. Elijah didn't try to fix Clara, and Clara didn't try to change Elijah. Instead, they mended fences side by side, rode into town for supplies together, and even shared a few laughs at the local barn dances, though Clara still refused to dance. "You afraid I'll step on your boots?" Elijah teased one evening, offering his hand under the lantern light. "No," she said, dry as dust. "I'm afraid you'll fall in love." He grinned. Too late. And though her cheeks flushed, Clara just rolled her eyes and walked away. But her heart, well, it wasn't walking anywhere. It was doing something far more dangerous, softening. Spring came fast that year, as if even nature was in a hurry to heal. The cornfields, once dry and brittle, were now green with hope. Clara spent her mornings checking the soil, whispering encouragement to the sprouts like a mother coaxing a child. Elijah built her a new chicken coop and fixed the porch swing her father had made before the war. Slowly, the place stopped feeling like a graveyard and started feeling like home again. One morning, Clara found a parcel wrapped in cloth sitting on her kitchen table. Inside was a new pair of riding gloves, soft as butter and stitched with her initials. Tucked between the fingers was a note. "For when you finally let yourself hold the reins again, E." She clutched them to her chest for a long moment before slipping them on. They fit like memory. But peace in the West never lasted long. It was mid-June when trouble rolled in. 4 men rode into town, guns on their hips and bitterness in their eyes. They weren't there for cattle or cards. They were bounty hunters. One of them had recognized Elijah's face on an old wanted poster, a mistake from years ago, a false accusation that never quite got cleared up. He'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time when a robbery turned into a shootout. And though he'd walked away clean, someone had seen him ride off and written his name in ink. Clara heard the rumor first. Mrs. Banner from the general store whispered it over the flour sacks, said she saw them heading towards the sheriff's office. Clara didn't wait. She dropped everything and rode hard. She found Elijah at the edge of town, just mounting his horse. He looked at her, hat in hand, expression unreadable. "I wasn't going to run," he said, "but I figured I should leave before it got ugly." Clara shook her head. "Number, you're not leaving. Not again. Not without a fight." He smiled sadly. "Clara," but she cut him off. "We both got past, but we also got a chance here, Elijah. A life that wasn't handed to us, but one we built, inch by inch. You taught me not to give up. I'm not letting you go without a word just because of some men who don't know the truth." And that's when the sheriff stepped out of the saloon, holding a yellowed piece of paper. "You Elijah Ford?" he asked. Elijah nodded. The sheriff looked him over, then crumpled the paper in his fist. "Saw the same poster 10 years ago. That bounty was lifted 3 winters back. You're clear." Elijah exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for a decade. Clara's knees almost buckled with relief. Later that night, as the sun dipped behind the hills and painted the cornfield gold, Elijah found Clara sitting on the edge of the porch swing he'd repaired. "I wasn't sure you'd still be here," he said. "I told you before," she replied softly. "If we're going to ride this trail, we ride it honest." He stepped closer, then knelt beside her. "I've carried a lot of guilt in my life," he said, "but meeting you, it's the one thing I'll never regret. You made me believe in second chances." She smiled. "You gave me my first." And then, under a sky blooming with stars, he reached into his coat and pulled out a small velvet box, weather-worn and plain, but full of quiet promise. "I didn't steal this," he said. "Didn't borrow it either. I bought it a while back. Just didn't know if I'd ever be man enough to give it to someone who deserved it." Clara's eyes welled, but she didn't look away. "Clara Levington," he said, voice low and sure, "will you ride with me, not just today, not just tomorrow, but for whatever road we've got left?" She took the box, opened it, and stared at the simple silver band inside. No diamonds, no flash, just like him, just like them. She nodded. "Yes, Elijah, I will." And in that moment, two people who had been broken in different ways found something stronger than healing. They found each other.